That's Mike Patrick, and in this video, I want to talk about you can take the person out of a situation, but you can't take the situation out of a person. Okay? Now, I think I'm gonna do the title. The way I'm gonna do the title, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's gonna resonate. Okay? And this is a very important topic, guys, because there's many different groups, different races of people, right, on this planet. Okay? And therefore we look at like who experiences the most success, who has their I don't necessarily want to say power, because I think power will be a word that's very intimidating or make it seem very imposing. But who has influence? Okay, who has influence? You look at it that way. Influence is a good word. Now, with that said, guys, when you look at influence, you look at who has the ability to uh, make law, you know, control order, and to be able to manipulate and construct the norms and ideals of society. Okay, that's what influence is. Okay, if, for example, so influence, like you think about, like if you in your house, who has the most influence? Like if your mom has more influence, let's say your mom is into fruits and vegetables, and herbs or whatever, right? Then if she has a heavy influence on the household, then everybody else in that household is going to be eating fruits and vegetables and herbs. Okay. And then vice versa, if she doesn't have a heavy influence on the house, somebody else does, who likes different things that's not that, then they'll have more of an influence. Okay, now with that said, it's about influence. But when it comes to influence, guys, look, influence can set up a system. Okay, influence can set up a way. All right. And then, so like anything else, everything needs energy, everything needs a backing, a charge. Okay, so if something, even if something is set up, if you as an engineer build the battery, you still need energy from a source. Okay, so with that said, guys, there's people on this planet, okay, that has very little influence, but they're very highly energetic. So meaning, while they're not the source of the power, like they're, while you are the source of the power, you are not per se the battery. You're not what's putting the influence or the power out. Okay, but you may be the source of the power. So if you are the source of the power, you should have a little bit more influence. Okay. And so, for example, now let's keep it 100. All right. So, for example, right, China has a lot of power and influence in our world, right? America has a lot of power and influence in our world. Let's say Russia, a lot of power, influence in our world. Okay. So, with that said, guys, but when it comes to power and influence, there's always resources. There's always something backing it. You just don't have power and influence because you say you have power and influence. You have power and influence because of usually muscle, usually might, and your ability to enforce your will. Thus, you can have power and influence. Okay? And so, with that said, guys, now I'm going to get into this. All right? When you have to reestablish your morals and values. I always say that. Okay, I don't be redundant on the channel, but for most channels you have to be redundant, and that's what draws people in, is redundancy. Okay, somebody holding on to a certain idea and a certain way of thinking for a certain amount of time. Okay, and then they that's kind of what they want to hear. I am kind of I address many different things on my channel, so I understand how it's hard to make people stick. Like, it's gonna be somebody who listens to this video and they're gonna like it, and but they'll expect content just like this every single time, like 5 times a day, 7 days a week. 365 days of the year, right? So the thing about it, guys, I try not to be redundant, but I try to address important things, okay? And so this is important, all right? Now, certain people, okay, are the biggest consumers on this planet, the biggest consumers on this planet, okay? But yet you have the least amount of actual power and influence, okay? So that's why I always talk about what's important is reestablishing values and morals. So therefore, no matter what you consume, you still have a certain foundation, okay? And so right now, what we're in a position where people um, people think that they are necessarily better than someone, or they think we're constantly in competition. Competition is not what you want. You want to be able to come together, okay? So it's not about you having the better pair of shoes than this person and you having the better shirt, anything like that. That's always going to keep you separate, if that makes sense, okay? You want to come together, guys. And so in order for you to be able to do that, you got to reestablish your values and your morals, okay? It has to all be based on the foundation. Like, we can be stripped naked, but we have each other. What can we do for each other? What can we do to survive? What can we do to move forward and thrive, okay? But when you're basing that on things outside of yourself, then you're going to constantly be in competition, okay? And then that's going to keep you divided, right? Competitions keep you divided. I want to win. I want to seem like the best. I want to seem like this. I want to seem like that. That's going to keep you divided, and divide and conquer. When you can just come together, okay, and establish certain values and morals beyond anything else, physical, material, okay? And then you can build and have all of that once you establish a certain base, okay? I think about so-called Mexicans, okay? Mexicans, you think about it, like I said, if the whole world was just to collapse, this is hypothetical, like if the whole world was just to end today, like as far as like the way of life, the way that we live today, if that was to collapse, what would be the group of people that would probably thrive under a circumstance like that? I said the Mexicans, because if you think about it, Mexicans aren't spoiled, okay? Mexicans do not, they don't have egos and things. Like, Mexicans will be 4 or 5 generations in one house, one apartment for that matter. You see what I'm saying? They just have love for each other. They're not trying to push each other out. They're not trying to compete with each other. And so you got to go off and do this and get this so you can show that you are doing this. You know, that's not how they are. They'll do whatever they got to do. You know what I mean? Like, if they got to be 30 deep in the crib for however long because they love each other, they don't mind being around each other. And that's what they'll do. Okay? But for other races, it's always about, you got to get out here and do this and get your own and do this, and it's separation. And then people do that, and that's why you have people scattered. You got people going all across the country, all across the world, so they can get theirs. You see what I'm saying? So they can get theirs instead of being together. And then it makes everybody fragmented and weak, okay? And so that's just the way you got to kind of look at it, because that's the truth, okay? And so, like, for examples, I always tell, how many Mexicans you know going to college? You know what I mean? Like that. But how many of them you know how to build homes? How many of them you know how to do agriculture? Things that's real. Things that's not contingent on nobody else. Things that, if everything fell down, these are skills and practices that we can utilize. You see what I'm saying? Beyond any system. Okay? Now, a lot of Mexicans, when they come over here, they do get Americanized and they start to incorporate themselves into our culture. But at first, like, they know how to work together, they know how to work fast, they know how to work efficiently. They don't mind each other, okay? And they are together, okay? They're not against each other, okay? So that's just something to think about, guys. All right. As a segue or a leadway, I try not to keep my videos long. This is gonna fall under 10 minutes, so therefore this is something I'll probably continue to build on, okay? But this is things we were doing. That's how you build strength. Separation is not building strength. And when you try to put pressure on people to go out and do this, that, and the third under any circumstances, then you keep everybody thin, spread thin and fragmented, no strength You're the weakest. Peace.